Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it. I'll never forget the sound of the front door clicking shut that night. No yelling, no dramatic exit, just the low creak of hinges, followed by silence. When I walked into the hallway, her suitcase was gone. So was she. Daphne was 8, asleep in her lavender bedroom, curled beneath a blanket covered in cartoon stars. Her chest rose and fell peacefully, unaware that everything had just changed. That night, I sat at the kitchen table until dawn, staring at my coffee, wondering what I'd done wrong. The note she left was short. "Lucas, I can't do this anymore. I need out. No signature, no apology." I quit my day job 2 weeks later. I couldn't afford a sitter and the night shifts paid more. I worked in a cold warehouse sorting packages from dusk until dawn, then came home to make Daphne's breakfast, walk her to school, nap for 2 hours, and repeat. I attended every parent-teacher conference with bags under my eyes. Sewed a butterfly costume for her spring play. Even though I hadn't held a needle since high school, I was exhausted, but I was there, always there. One morning, as we walked to school, Daphne tugged on my sleeve. "Dad, why don't you sleep?" I smiled and ruffled her hair. "I do, just differently than most people." "You look sad when you think I'm not watching," she said quietly. That broke me more than I let her see. But somewhere between childhood and adolescence, Daphne changed. I told myself it was hormones, a phase. But it wasn't just attitude. It was a look in her eyes, flat, hard, calculated. By the time she turned 15, she was locking doors, deleting texts, and staying out late with kids I'd never met. One night, after I asked her to lower the volume on her music, she turned, sneered, and said, "You don't tell me what to do. You're just a loser who got dumped." Then she slammed her bedroom door. I stood in the hallway stunned, not because she insulted me, but because she meant it. No hesitation, no remorse. That's when I realized the little girl I raised was gone, and something else had taken her place. The call came on a gray Wednesday afternoon. I was in the middle of inventory at work when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Mr. Rivera, this is Officer Barnes with Child Protective Services. We've received a report from your daughter alleging physical violence." The floor dropped out from beneath me. When I got home, 2 officers stood on my porch. Daphne was in the living room, arms crossed, a faint purple mark on her cheek. Manufactured, a lie, but convincing enough to stir suspicion. "Did you hit your daughter, sir?" one of them asked. "No, never," I said, my voice trembling with disbelief more than fear. Daphne sat silently, playing the role of victim. I watched her carefully, no tears, no fear, just calculation. After they left, warning me of further investigation, I turned to her. "Why would you do that?" She didn't flinch. "Maybe I slipped. Or maybe you shoved me," she said coldly. "Who's going to believe a single dad over a teenage girl?" I couldn't speak. I couldn't even move. She turned and walked upstairs, humming. The next morning, I overheard her laughing on the phone. "Yeah, he freaked out. You should have seen his face when the cops showed up. Total meltdown. Told you it'd work." That was the day something inside me shifted. I stopped reacting. No more pleading. No more punishment. I began documenting everything. Screenshots, audio clips, photos. I moved the Wi-Fi router into a locked cabinet, planted an old phone to record. Every lie she told, every smirk, every outburst, I captured it all. One night, she came home with friends, drunk and loud. When I told her to quiet down, she spat in my face. I wiped it off calmly and said, "You should be careful. Cameras are everywhere these days." For the first time, I saw a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. But she wasn't finished. Not yet. The next morning, my boss called me into his office. Someone had tipped him off. An anonymous message claiming I was under investigation for child cruel treatment. And there was more. I found stolen jewelry in the garage, buried under old boxes. Nothing of ours. Planted. She wanted me ruined. But she underestimated me. She hadn't yet learned. I may be tired, but I'm not blind. It began with the Wi-Fi. I changed the password without a word. Daphne stormed into the kitchen that evening, face twisted with outrage. "Did you mess with the internet again?" she snapped. I looked up from my coffee, calm. "Must be the provider. You know how unreliable they are." She scoffed and stormed off, not realizing I had installed a secondary network, one only I could access. Everything she typed, I could trace. Every message she sent became a breadcrumb in a trail she didn't know she was leaving. That night, I sifted through her texts. One stood out, a group chat titled Erase, and there it was, my name on a list, accompanied by flame emojis, comments like, "He won't see it coming, and this will end him." The words chilled me, but I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I planted another old phone, this time in the air vent above the kitchen. I had already rigged the garage with motion-activated security cameras. I knew she wasn't done. The bruises, the spit, the false tips. Those were just the beginning. 2 days later, I found her in the garage with a box in her hands. She looked up, startled. "Looking for something?" I asked, arms crossed. "Oh, just the old paint cans," she said too quickly. "Art project." I waited until she left for school, then opened the box. Inside were items I'd never seen, designer purses, tangled gold chains, small electronics. None of it ours, all stolen, all planted. The evidence she planned to use against me. I backed up the footage to a flash drive and put it in a safety deposit box, just in case. Later that night, she tried to pick a fight. "I hate it here," she hissed. "You're a joke of a father." "You should leave then," I replied quietly. "If you hate it so much." She blinked. She wasn't expecting that. "I don't need to throw you out to let you fall," I added. "I just have to step aside." She said nothing, but the anger behind her eyes had turned cold. She was plotting. And I was ready. I was building my own case, not with rage, but with silence and strategy. Each lie she told, each trap she set, I turned into ammunition. Daphne thought she was writing the script. She didn't know I was directing the ending. The front door creaked open like a bad omen. Daphne stood in the doorway, duffel bag slung over one shoulder, the artificial defiance on her face beginning to crack. She'd spent 3 nights in juvenile holding after the police uncovered the stolen goods, caught red-handed thanks to the footage I handed them. "What? No welcome hug?" She sneered. I didn't move. "This house doesn't hug criminals." Her lip curled, but the silence between us was heavier than her insults. I noticed her eyes scanning the room, looking for the power she once held. It wasn't there anymore. "You really think you've won?" she spat. "They let me go." "No," I said softly. "They're watching, closely now, and so am I." She shoved past me into the kitchen, only to find every drawer locked. No keys, no electronics, no internet. Her world had shrunk, and I designed it that way. "I'll just tell them you're messing with me again," she said flatly. I met her stare. "And I'll show them your messages, the list, your voice, Daphne. It's all recorded." She paled. I set a thick folder on the table. "You're not back," I told her. "This is your last stop." She opened the folder. Legal documents, petition for her emancipation, cutting her off financially. This meant severing financial and legal ties. For the first time, Daphne didn't have a comeback, only silence. The courthouse smelled like dust and old paper, like the final breath of something long dead. Daphne sat beside her court-appointed lawyer, arms crossed, eyes blank. She hadn't spoken to me since I filed for her legal emancipation. Today, she would be free, but deprived of the comfort and security she once destroyed. The judge asked if I was certain. "I am," I said, voice calm. "She made her choices. I'm just giving them a name." After the ruling, we stepped outside. The sky was cloudless, strangely peaceful. Daphne turned to me. "So that's it? You're done being my dad?" I looked at her, really looked, for the first time not as a father, but as a man who survived her storm. "I stopped being your father the day you smiled after spitting in my face." She winced. I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out a small recording device. "One last thing," I said, pressing play. Her mother's voice crackled through. "I left because of Daphne, not you. I was afraid of her. You did everything right, Lucas." Daphne staggered back a step like the words had slapped her. I didn't wait for more. I turned and walked away. For the first time in many years, the air felt clean in my lungs. Freedom, I realized, sometimes comes wrapped in ashes, and I was finally free. I come home now to silence, not the heavy, suffocating kind, but the peaceful hush of a house no longer bracing for war. I repainted the living room, donated the broken frames, adopted a rescue dog named Benny who snores louder than any man should. Some nights, I still replay her laughter from years ago, back when she was little and the world hadn't turned so sharp. But I stopped blaming myself for losing her. You can pour your soul into someone, and they can still choose to set it on fire. I work steady hours now. I sleep. I smile more. Sometimes healing doesn't look like reconciliation. Sometimes it's a locked door, a firm boundary, and the courage to never reopen what nearly destroyed you. I gave everything to be her father. Now I'm giving everything to be whole. Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.